Hey everyone, I have an honor to introduce you my new guest today. It's Andrew and Tori from Syndicus Defense Group. They're also active law enforcement in LA County. Uh, we thought it's going to be a very interesting topic to talk about current crimes in LA County, also the solutions we have for those situations. Uh, as I have canines, these guys are training people how to properly use guns and defend their homes. So we thought it's going to be a great idea to talk about this and combine some sources and make things are more easier for our community and try to resolve some problems that currently, for some reason, government can't resolve. So, Andrew, if you can introduce yourself and have a few words about it.
No, absolutely. My name is Andrew Garcia. I'm here with Syndicus. Um, I've been a law enforcement officer for about 10 years. I'm currently a detective. So all these crime patterns that you're mentioning and talking about, something that we're really keen on and really address when we do our training. Um, Part of our training is not only to teach people how to use their firearms and license them to be CCW holders here in the county, but it's also to teach them the other side of it, the legal aspect, what they're getting themselves into, and what does that look like. And I think Tori and I and Ethan and Dave do a really good job of putting it all together. So, I mean, I'll introduce Tori over here.
Tori?
What's up, everyone? I'm Tori Williams. I am a 17-year veteran on my department, currently a sergeant, and like Andrew said, just we look at all the trends, we look at everything that's happening, people that's breaking into businesses and they're going in these big mobs and doing this kind of stuff and putting people at risk in the public every day. In addition to the home invasions and burglaries and things like that, just the public just doesn't feel safe. So what we do is we give them. I mean, obviously we can't teach someone safety, but what we can do is give them the confidence and the tools to put their own safety in their own hands, and essentially that's what we're trying to do.
What I realize actually, guys, so people understand how serious this thing's going everywhere, in every city of this
Across the
county.
country.
And they'll go to buy a gun. They apply for CCWs. Now it's easier to get it with LA County. But I do see a lot of clients, and I always ask them, okay, you have your gun. Do you know how to use it? How comfortable are you to using it? And all of these questions, right? And I feel like people are really, they're not, they're afraid of using their own gun now in their own house. They don't know the laws.
Yeah.
They feel like, okay, uh, if worst come to worst, I have to use it, then I'll use it, and then whatever happens, let it happen.
Well,
And I'm like, that's not necessarily a good thing to do
Yeah,
because,
they think they're going to rise to the occasion.
Yeah.
And the reality is, I mean, even if you look at law enforcement and incidents that law enforcement officers get involved in, especially when you're talking about an officer-involved shooting, sometimes officers don't rise to that occasion, and we're trained, over years and years and years of dealing with, tons and tons and tons of critical incidents, should I say, right? And then they get involved in a shooting, and they may or may not rise to that occasion. So, that's based on them being trained, by their agency, by their respective agencies. Some of the guys have experience being in the military or, were deployed, they're veterans and things like that. So they may have seen combat, and they're more likely to rise to that occasion than your average cop that's never seen combat, never been involved in a situation like that. But now you take your average 40-year-old mom of two who decided to go get a gun because she wants to protect her home and protect her family. And that's great. I'm all for it. Exercise your 2A right all day long. Now, with that comes the responsibility of learning how to do it properly, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Especially for those who want a CCW. If you're going to be out in public and you're utilizing a gun, or you something happens that makes them have to draw that gun and pull it and use it, I personally want to make sure that they know what they're doing, because I may be walking around with my family And the last thing I want is for my family to get hit by a stray bullet from someone who exercised their rights and did what they think was the right thing to do at the time, which is great.
They don't have
But
enough training.
didn't
do
have
it
enough training to
properly.
do it effectively, efficiently, and safely.
Well, they
So-
don't think they need it. That's the problem, is that we're seeing all these people buy guns, especially during the pandemic, right? We have hundreds of thousands of people that bought firearms, and no one stopped to think, well, maybe I should train with this. And we saw the influx. I mean, California alone has an increase of gun sales over the whole country by almost 300% for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
And at what point are those people thinking, oh, wait, maybe I should get some training? Maybe I should add some home defense. Maybe I should add some basic pistol or just firearm knowledge. And we ask a lot of these people, and it's not to make fun of them, but it's to gauge their knowledge and to open their eyes and think, hey, we're all for you buying a gun. We want you to buy a gun. Have you used one? Well, no. Okay, so you're taking your test today. That's great. And that's just for you to buy a gun. But what happens afterwards? It's just going to be locked up, put in your closet, under your bed. Do you know how to load it? Do you have the right ammo? Did you put it in the right way? And it sounds so minute, but in the grand scheme of things, I mean, this is stuff that we teach every day and that we talk to not only our clients, but just people that come in and ask questions. And we just try to open their eyes to see, hey, you know, you get into a brand new car and you're messing with all the buttons. Oops. We're messing with all the buttons. Oh, this does this does that. You actually take the time when you have a new car to really dive into what you have.
Well, look at it this way. If you're talking about a car, right? Take a family of 5, you know, husband, wife, 3 kids, and a dog. Perfect. Your son's turning 14 years old, right? We as men, the way that we grew up, well, I learned how to drive when I was 12. You know, it's because I was, Dad, you know, let's go. Let's get in the car. I want to drive. I want to drive. I want to drive. And then he puts you in his lap and he lets you act like you're driving even though he's really doing all the work. But would you put your 12-year-old son behind the wheel of a car and say, let's go out on the road and
Well, the
and
car at
drive?
that point is a weapon if you don't know how to drive.
Yeah,
Same
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So now,
Exactly my point. So the
Yeah.
same thing is that family wouldn't put their 12-year-old kid in a car and throw him on the freeway and say, okay, son, you're going to drive us to L.A. from Riverside.
See, the way I'm working with my client handlers who handles canines, right? And I say, listen, the reason I'm not just selling you a dog like other people do, even though some of the companies that sell protection dogs, they're not really protection dogs, they're just fake dogs. I call them fake dogs, but I work with these clients for a year.
Right.
I make sure they understand how they should handle their canine in situations like that. Unless you put this client in a situation that close to real crime situations that happens, they will not understand how to do it.
Correct.
Because it's different when they're in a chill mode, working, but it's different mode when there's actually attack, or they don't know where is it coming from. So they kind of start in training how to work with the canine, not confuse the dog, and also know what to do.
Right.
Same thing with gun. If you don't know how to use it, you shoot your gun in a shooting range once a year, and somebody gets into your house, and I'm sorry, you rather not take that gun out. There is so many bad things can happen in those scenarios. You can actually shoot one of your family members because you don't have experience of using the gun properly.
Well, it's either that, Mike, or you're going to have the situation where somebody's going to, their adrenaline's going to spike, the cortisol is going to dump through their body. They're going to have all these fight, flight, or freeze situations. It's going to be one of the three. They're going to be ready to fight, they're going to be ready to run, or they're going to freeze.
Yeah.
As simple as that. But if they're ready to fight and they go and grab their gun and they're not trained, they're going to have issues loading it. They're going to have issues dealing with whether or not there's a round in the chamber. And they may even get themselves in a situation where the gun gets taken from them and used against them in that situation. And we've seen that as well. So, of course, we'd love to help people avoid that from happening, the same as you would love to see people avoid trying to use their dog in the wrong way. We have the same mindset as far as that goes. You don't want someone to get a dog and then they have a 12-year-old kid that's like hanging out with their friends like, hey, look what my dog can do. And they give the dog a command and now the dog bites some other little kid, right? So the same way you're talking safety with how to handle that dog, we have to talk safety with how to handle a firearm. It can take a
Exactly,
life.
and that's a great point, because I don't want to say big words, but I think I'm the only company that gives lifetime of support to the dogs and their families, because end of the day, these clients understand that this is now 1 month, 2 months, 3 months thing. These dogs, they constantly needs to be trained to be ready, and they're also as handlers needs to be constantly trained.
Perishable skill. Yes.
Yeah, because you know, you guys law enforcement. I've been, in situation. I'm a current law enforcement as well, but we constantly train. I
Yes.
train myself. I go to shooting range. I train my dogs. If I don't work my dog for 3 months, he's rusty.
Yeah.
So, and my clients actually do understand that hey, this is constant training, so we keep it up, and but they rather do that. It actually becomes fun. They love it. They want to do it. Their confidence level goes up because now they feel like they're ready if anything happens.
So that's the key right there. Mike,
Exactly,
is
right.
They gain that confidence from seeing their skill level increase. The more you do something, the better you get at it, the easier it
Exactly.
becomes, and then the more fun it becomes, right? It's like playing golf. I don't know if you play golf. or not.
Exactly.
Golf is just super awesome game when you pretty good at it.
When you're learning how.
But
to
when
do
you
it.
don't go play for a year and a half, and then you get up to the tee, and then your ball is like, and you're like, oh, what happened? Well, perishable skill. If it's not something that you continuously do, you lose it.
It is unfortunate to say, like, but it is reality. Today, when I talk to people, I say, listen, 5 minutes before somebody breaks into your house, I'll give you a warning, let's say. And we'll test that, right? We'll say, okay, we're coming in. What are you going to do? Are you ready to protect your family? 911. You can make that call, 40 minutes ETA or whatever it is. If they're very close, maybe 15,
Let's hope it's not
20.
that long.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
as
not.
I see cases of robberies, burglaries, and all of that, it takes 7 minutes.
At least.
They go in, they're out. By the time law enforcement gets there, it's the time for the reports.
Yeah.
Now, what happens in that 7-10 minutes? Can you afford that? No, you can't. I seen situation. Kids were inside, their grandma was inside. Now these people scared of going into their own house.
Mm-hmm.
That feeling you cannot take it out. I seen people selling their house, going to somewhere else because the fear is in them already. Every single noise, it's a threat.
Yeah, it's a scar.
And the question is, when is your next time? It's just matter of time because it's coming. If anybody has this Ring app or Citizen app, literally mile away, half mile away, 2 miles away, there's every 15 minutes, every 10 minutes, there is something going on.
Constant.
It's crazy. It is crazy, but get ready. If you're a person that is gonna stand up for your family and protect your family, please prepare yourself. Either is a gun or a dog or both together. Get ready, prepare, because your turn is gonna come. Unfortunately, we don't want to face that reality, but it is what it is. I do have a lot of law enforcement clients that they're active police officers. They're getting canine for their family,
Right.
because they're working, and they don't
Yeah.
feel safe for their kids, for their wife at home.
Well,
That's-
I mean, from that standpoint, I'm sorry for cutting you off, but from that standpoint, yes, you're right, because I don't know very many officers that live in the same city where they work, right? There's a few, but for the most part, you're usually a distance away from where you work. So, and especially if you're working a late shift, from 2 to 10 or 4 to midnight shift, or even if you're working early mornings, you're working overnight. Those guys want to make sure that there's some type of protection for their wife and kids at home while they're, away, doing their job. And that dog is a great tool, even as whether it's an alarm, whether it's just enough to scare them because they hear a big bark from a good sized dog or something like that, all the way up to the point where they come in the house and the dog will do what the dog has to do because the dog is going to protect their domain.
Exactly. Yeah. That's actually preventing. Most of the time, whoever sees dog like that in your yard, it's a big headache for them to come in.
Right.
And sometimes they even try to see if the dog is friendly. If the dog is not, then it's like, okay, skip this house.
Yeah.
And the problem is these guys, as we realized, they come back to the same houses after like 3 months, 6 months. They come back.
Mm-hmm.
So in their list, oh, this house is out, this house is out, this house has dogs, we're not going close. And in my street, my neighbors, they love my dog. I get home, I have gifts on my porch. I'm like, enough, I don't want it. Like, we love your dog. If my dog barks 4 a.m., everybody gets up because they know this dog is not barking nonsense. There is something going on.
Yeah.
So my neighbors are safe, but I think it is time for everybody to take the reality serious and get ready and train themselves and their families. And that is one of the main reasons I wanted to talk to you guys and understand how we can implement this 2-in-1 and teach people how to be ready, train themselves, how to use a gun, know the laws, understand the laws, and their families as well. Also, they have their canine in there that will do the job, right?
Yeah.
And I asked a lot of people's opinion about this. I don't think anybody else ever did this before, but everybody likes it. So hopefully we can come up with something that will give these extra tools and knowledge and training to our public to protect themselves. What do you guys think about that?
I think this is a good idea, Mike. I don't think it's ever been done in the private sector or with just regular civilians. Yeah, you have guys that have protection dogs and you have guys that have guns. But to introduce a less lethal option and a force multiplier is what we're going to essentially do here. It's usually done in law enforcement. It's not really seen too much out in the civilian world. But like you said, nowadays with the way things are going, I mean, one thing you mentioned earlier is situational awareness, right? You have all these criminals marking and checking whose homes are empty, who's on vacation. You know, you go to Woodland Hills or you go to Anaheim Hills or you go to North Hollywood or Beverly Hills where they know people either go on vacation or have high value targets. You know, you have to address all those things. But like you said, what if you're not on vacation and you're home and you have your dog and you have your weapons? You know, being comfortable with your perishable skills is one thing, but then also being well versed in the law is another. Because we say it all the time, knowledge is power. You are going to revert back to your lowest level of training, unfortunately, or your highest level of training, however way you look at it. But to do that, you also have to be confident in the skill set that you're having. So I know you give a lifetime warranty for your dog, which is amazing, but I know we've had this conversation before. If your dog acts in accordance to what you trained it to do and it saves someone's life, you said it, you have no problem sitting up on the stand in court. And that's big. How many other trainers can say that? You know, they can't.
Not a lot.
You know, we would do the same thing too. We'd stand in court too. If someone got into a shooting, God forbid, at the end of the day, it's their decision to pull the trigger. But if they had training from us and they did everything the way that we taught them to do it, we have no problem, you know, testifying in court for them as well, because we know what we taught them, and if they're following that, our direction and our guidance and what we taught them, then I think that's a big thing to look at too between the
It
two of
is
us.
very big, Andrew. Also, see, we're not just dog trainers. When people come to us, they rely on us, rely on our dogs to provide that safety. And that's why we are involved all the way. We do that extra step if needed. Any time of the day, 4 a.m., 3 a.m., we get a call from the client. I do answer those calls. I don't care where I am, what it is, what situation I am. I answer, Mike, is everything okay? Yes, Mike, we were just trying to ask a question or whatever, right? But I do take that very seriously because people rely on my training to provide safety for their family. Same thing with you guys, right? And
Well, it's twofold, Mike. It's a we're providing something that they need, right? That they're asking for, but at the same time, we're giving them that service that
support service, yes.
you know, some people don't necessarily give. And to Andrew's point, like he was saying, with, you know, us testifying if necessary, of course, you know, what we kind of talk to our clients about and kind of teach them is some of the same tenets and principles that we teach in law enforcement, is constant reassessment, constant reassessment, constant reassessment. You can't just see one thing now and then for the next 5 minutes, that's all you're going to act on. because things change second by second, minute by minute. So it's a constant reassessment. Okay, you don't just unload a full magazine.
See, there is a big factor, and I'm sure you guys cross to this issue as well. I always tell my clients, I don't want you to watch YouTube how people do things. I don't want you to, just stick to your training. Any
Right.
questions you have, we'll cover it for you.
Right.
Don't confuse yourself.
But Mike, everyone's a trainer nowadays.
Yeah,
Everyone's a trainer nowadays.
Everybody's
Everyone
got
has
a
a method.
platform. And you know what? And here's the thing. Yeah, I'll be the first to tell you if I'm talking to clients and we're teaching a class or doing whatever. Yeah, I'll be quick to tell them this is not the way. Right? This is not the way. There is not just one way to do things. This is a way. However, I implore you to seek other training. Don't just think that we are the end all be all of training, because what we teach may be relevant to self-protection in the home and things like that as it relates to how we would respond or act in some way with law enforcement, which may be vastly different than someone who was a Marine, or vastly different than someone who was a Navy SEAL. And the way that they teach and the way that they train movement through a house is going to be so much different.
Absolutely.
And every one of those types of training is going to have a specific application, which you can attest to. Military and law enforcement are the same in a lot of ways, but then
Yeah.
very different in a lot of ways. And when it comes to stuff like this, because of combat and some of the things that some of the guys out there that they teach, I see in airsoft, I see in paintball, all these different venues where people are training. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not one to step on anybody's toes or tell them that they're a POS because you taught this and you shouldn't have done that. Teach what you want. But I tell my clients the same thing, like we were saying. Be versatile in what you go and learn. However, fundamentals are fundamentals. And if you got the fundamentals down and we give you fundamentals and we give you a baseline as to what you need to know and how you need to respond in certain situations, we're going to put them through stress and
Yeah.
make them and make them have to make decisions under stress so that they understand what that feels like.
See, there is one actual unique thing I saw about your guys' company and the way you train, and that's the same concept I use with my clients. Every family is different for me. They're different people. They have different lifestyle. Their K9 is getting designed for their lifestyle, for
Right.
them. And same thing, guys, I seen you guys work with families. It's an individual approach. If you see like, okay, you need to work with this child differently, with female differently, with male, you do different approach.
Everybody's got a different skill set.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I
Or
really
their
like
certain
that
speed.
because that's what I do. I say, listen, don't compare your K9 to others people. You're a different family. I'm designing it for you. I'm designing based on your family's size. I'm training the dog based on your property size and all of that, right? So it's individual approach, and I seen the way you guys approach. I really like it because, if let's say you gotta make it fun, you make it fun, because in my opinion, training should be fun.
It should be.
When
it has
you-
to be.
It
It
has
has
to
to be
be.
a
It
relaxed.
has to be fun because when
relaxed
you're
environment.
focusing to learn something, it's different, and when you're actually enjoying the process, you're learning differently.
You learn
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah.
It's like a client we have right now, right? Because we like to keep the confidentiality of our clients too. It's a decent sized family, and like you're saying, and to Tori's point, everyone has a little bit of a different skill set, right? Some may progress a little faster than others, and so on and so forth. So we do take that detailed time to cater to what their family has and what they're good at, what they're not good at, and we go through all that, and it's a fun learning environment. But for this particular family and others, sometimes we'll mix it up at the end, especially if they have little kids, because we know the kids are, oh man, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, and they're receptive, but then we gotta give them that opportunity to relax so they take in everything, and we don't just let them go shoot. We said, okay, look, we're gonna let you shoot at the end, your brothers and sisters and so on and so forth, do your thing and have fun. However, there's gonna be rules applied to this, and you have to use principles that we've taught you today to engage in that scenario against your brothers or against your sisters. So yeah, to your point, Mike, we try to really not just work with our client, but understand their lifestyle too, so that we can get exactly what they want. And I think that's what, we've all talked about the last couple of months is how do we integrate that to them having a canine, them using a weapon, and then merging that together so it's a seamless process for our clients. Because once they're our clients, they're always going to be our clients. We're always going to be training them. We're going to be updating them. We're going to give them new skill sets. Because us three, I know for a fact, we've done it for sure, and I know you do it too. We're always going to school. Tori just
We're
trying to
always
finishing up his
training, we're
degree
always learning,
or
yeah.
training. Yeah, we're always finding instructors that are better than us so that we can go and train with them. I mean, it's what we do. It's our lifestyle. We have to do it, and that's how we get better.
Besides they're learning very important things, laws, regulations, learning skills, training themselves. What I realize, it becomes fun for the clients too. Like I'm having fun when I'm working with my canine. I'm having fun when I'm training, and I have clients that graduate, their level, and they're still here. They just come because this is becomes part of their life. They're enjoying it,
It's normal thing
and
now.
they want to do it, and they do understand that, okay, if I don't train for 3 months, 6 months, even though I do provide 6 months refreshment free for my dogs, but they come. They're like, we don't want to miss a class. We want to be here.
Well, if you look at it this way, Mike, you have say a family of 4 again, or a family of 5. Dad's constantly working, mom's at home with the kids. Kids are in sports, kids are in school. Everybody's kind of doing their own thing throughout the week, right? Um, Dad comes home late. They have dinner. Kids go to sleep. Get up, do it all over again. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday comes around, and now it's dog training time, or now it's, hey, we got weapons training this weekend. It's a great time for those families to kind of bond and do something together, right? Where they're spending that time together that normally on a Saturday, teenage kids, like, I'm going to hang out with my friends. I got teenagers. I know how that goes.
It's so
right?
funny, man. The other day, I have a person here trying to get a dog. They have a situation. They need a protection dog. My son comes in. He's 10 years old. He's like, listen, it's better you spend your time with your dog than on the phone.
Right?
I'm like, look at it. Like, it's fun. Forget about the phone. It's good when you're working with the dog, having fun with the. I'm
He's
like,
not
look
wrong.
at it.
He's not wrong at all.
Yeah.
But again, so what we offer and what you offer collectively, and even separately, is that same bonding time for those families to really kind of come together, do a common thing, aside from taking some big trip and going somewhere where, again,
Yeah.
somebody's on the phone and, everybody's kind of doing their own thing. Yeah, we went to this place together, but everybody's doing their own thing. This is a way where you have now everybody's together doing the same thing, right? And they're all sharing the same experience, and they're all gaining the same skills, and building that camaraderie amongst themselves as far as, their own safety and things
Well, just
like
communication there alone. I mean,
Communication.
yeah, that's
exactly.
a big
When
one.
something happens, family knows what to do. They all know the role.
Correct.
They know the safety rules. They know where to go, where to hide if needed, how to. So it is for family. It's not for one man or one person to do. If you're family, I personally prefer that family be present in
Right.
in a class. Like in my job, hardest thing is to work with the clients, not with the dogs. The dogs, they know what to do. The hardest thing is to work the clients and explain them how to use it, how to give commands, how to cancel the commands. I have 12 years old. I have 7 years old kids, fully controlling. The smile comes on my face. I enjoy it.
Well,
This
the
is I'm
problem
like
with
this is what I
the
want.
problem with that now, I guess I'm not necessarily going to even really call it a problem, but it's just a reality, right? We're adults, right? So we have known unknowns, we have unknown unknowns, and we have all the things that we've learned over 30, 40 years of life, and it's hard to unlearn those things to learn something new, right? So that's essentially what we're doing when we're teaching adult learners, is we're teaching them to unlearn bad habits to teach them those good habits. And the same goes, when you're teaching weapons. If you just talk about firearms handling, every boy from the age of 5 to 45 has watched Rambo or John Wick or whatever movie you can
Leave my
think
Bad
of.
Boys movie alone, all right? I learned a lot from that movie.
Whatever movie you can think of that handled a firearm, and they're like, I want to do that. I want to
Yeah.
be that guy. So you go grabbing a gun, and that's how they think they should handle it, and it's 100% not necessarily the way that they should handle it, but we have to teach them how to unlearn those bad habits and bad skills. And the same with you with a dog. People just think, oh, it's a dog, let me go up and put my face in his face and rub his head, and some dogs don't like that. Get away from
Yeah.
me. Especially when you talk about a dog that's more trained, that you're providing to your clients, and they're gonna just sit there. I look at your
No,
dog, and
see,
she just sits there and looks at you
it's
like,
not-
who are you?
Literally, we do have people that calling in, hey, I want the dog, I have the money, and they think that's how it works. That's not. I'm sorry, money is money, fine, you have the money, but you need to actually come to training.
the time.
I cannot just give you a canine.
Right.
It's like, well, I bought one before. I'm like, so why you don't have that? He didn't work. People will come in, he didn't do anything.
say the dog
I'm
didn't
like,
work?
see, yeah.
The dog was broken.
You didn't
The
work.
dog
You
was
didn't come to
broken.
training. What? So
I'm
you're
like,
broken.
see, that's why people they sold it to him from Europe, shipped it. This is your protection dog.
Yeah.
How you sell a protection like that? So I say, listen, you need
they
to
send him
put
a sheet of
time. You
paper
need to
with all
come
the
here. I
commands,
gotta
or
teach you
say
how
this?
to use a dog. The dog needs to work with you. This is not just okay. It's a car I go buy or I send my assistant to buy.
Right.
You need to put some time. I'm sorry, everybody's busy, but if you feel like you need canine, then you gotta dedicate that time and work with the dog and with me. And the training as well, right? If you don't put that time, you don't train with me, how you want me to teach you all of this? I have people coming in, they're super busy, I know their lifestyle, but they commit that time because they have a purpose and they have a goal to go. And they come and they're enjoying it. If 1 second everybody thinks like, okay, in a real situation, something like this comes to my door, am I ready? I don't think people are ready for that.
Well, I think
And if one
we
of my
pose that
dogs
question to
does
them
the
directly-
job, I was recently watching one of your interviews. You said if one of my clients did the job, protect his family, saved his family, I did my job. I'm proud. That's the same way I work. That's the same way I feel. If one of my dogs does the job, you don't imagine how happy I'm with that, because that's already saving a life, right?
Yeah. I mean, it means, it validates what we're doing.
Absolutely.
At the end of the day, running a business is running a business. But, I told him when we first became partners that my passion is teaching. My passion is, giving back to the people the things that I've learned over my 49 years of life, right? And just seeing someone benefit from that, right? Growing up in the black community, there was a term used in the 90s called each one teach one. And it was a thing for black men to go out and teach other black men how to become black men, not just grow up and do whatever the heck you want to do, right? Grow up, be a man, be responsible, take care of your family, give back to the community, do something responsible.
Yeah, exactly.
And, obviously I had good role models in my life that helped me. So, there are people that I've reached back and done the same for. Now, saying that doesn't mean that I'm only reaching out and trying to help blacks. It's everyone, right? We're all human. We're all on the same big spinning ball of dirt, right? And we're going to be here for however many years we're going to be here. So we might as well get along and do it together, right? So that's kind of my thing. And it's like I said, if anything that I taught someone saves a life, saves themselves, saves someone else without hurting anyone additional,
You did your job.
cool. My job's not done. I'll continue to do it. However, but that's a
how
job
proud
well done.
you feel about it,
That's
yeah.
a job well done.
And that's a good point. I mean, doing what we're about to do, Mike, together, I keep thinking about it, and it's to Tori's point, right? And to our perspective on how we see this going, it's yeah, we have a deadly weapon, we have a gun, but then we have your canines, and we're teaching a client a higher skill set, a higher level of thinking. That to me in itself is intriguing because it takes a lot of time, energy, and effort to combine the knowledge that you have training your canine, combine the knowledge that you have using a firearm, combine the knowledge that you have manipulating and using the law to your advantage to protect you, and then making the ultimate decision to either shoot your gun to protect your family or send your dog to also protect your family. I mean, either option works. And I think, to Tori's point is to teach everybody that, or at least give them the chance to learn that for those that want to. I mean, you didn't have that back in the day. Back in the day, you relied on law enforcement to do that job for you, but we know that's not the case anymore.
It's fleeting.
Yeah.
See, for me, it's more of a whatever I have today in my life. I have my dogs. I know how to use guns. My kids know. My wife knows how to use a gun. I feel I'm safe, right? If anything, I'm ready for it. But to have that only for yourself and not give it to other people,
Yeah.
that's not my type. If I feel like, okay, I found the key and this is it, and I'm sharing with people, teaching them with you guys, and we have this opportunity, I feel good about it.
Absolutely.
And also, I know you guys currently working on some of the specific cases like this, right?
Yep.
Would you share some of the recent crimes, how they're doing it, how many, like I seen recently, there's not only one or two, they come in were like 4 people, 5 people breaking into people's house. Can you share a little bit what's going on today, yesterday, day before, active
Absolutely. I
ways
mean,
of doing things?
like we mentioned, we've both been in law enforcement, 40 plus years combined. Not only on the civilian side that we get from classes, but also on, me being a detective and seeing things from a different point of view. I'll give you one example. We had a client. He had 3 cars and 6 people come and try to steal his truck, all with guns. And they're getting smart. They're using some tactics. You had 2 guys facing the door. You had one looking down at the street, and then you had the other 3 geniuses trying to get inside his truck, which they were successful because they're getting the technology to hack into their truck, these new TRXs that are coming out, and take these cars. That's one. In that situation, what would you do? And we asked that same client, what would you do? And his answer was like, well, that's why I'm here with you guys, because I don't know what to do. And, that's unfortunately the answer we've been getting. It's we don't know what to do. And then on the flip side of that, being in law enforcement, we're going to these victims and we're asking them, hey, did you notice this? Did you notice that? No, I didn't. And I go back and I watch video, and I saw this guy from the bank. When I follow the breadcrumbs backwards, we saw this car in the video following our victim since the bank all the way back to her home and robbing them at gunpoint at their home. So we go back to now the other question, situational awareness. Are you being cognizant about who's around you, what's around you, what you're seeing? Where are you at that someone could actually follow you? Are you, pulling $10,000 out of the bank in front of a teller and you're, counting it right there in front of everybody to see? You're giving them the ample opportunity to say, hey, I'm going to follow that guy home, or I'm going to call this guy to follow that guy home. There's so many things that we see from, us being instructors and just our experience at work that really highlight how progressively worse it's getting. I mean, we deal with it every day, more and more, to the point where we can't keep up. I mean, we have cases, 40, 50 cases a detective. Those are the ones that we get. How about the ones that we don't get? Crimes that are occurring that we don't know about because people are too scared, they're threatened, or they think, and we get this a lot too, well, I didn't want to call the cops, they're not going to do anything. Well, whether or not that may be true, our job is to do the best we can to help the community and the people that we serve. But if we can't for some reason, these are the real life scenarios that we like to implement and throw. And we ask our clients, hey, do you mind if we share your story? It legitimately happened. It was real. Can we show your video? Most of them say yeah, and we show
Yeah, they're pretty
other
good
clients.
They're pretty good about it.
But
And
generally,
the- and-
I'm sorry to cut you off. Generally, let's say it's active, something happening right now. Who will be the proper ETA for the law enforcement to get there if they get the
So-
call? Approximately.
Look at it from this perspective. Somebody ran in here with a gun right now. One,
Bad
I
i-
feel bad.
bad- bad idea.
One, I feel bad for him.
Bad idea.
One, I feel bad for him, but I really don't feel bad for him. But let's just say we weren't who we are, and somebody ran in here with a gun and decided they wanted to rob the business. Which one of us, being held at gunpoint, is going to call the cops? No one at this particular moment, because their whole thing is to take everything that they can. So let's just say, okay, wallets, watches,
Watches,
jewelry, cell phones, right? Whatever they can get, a computer or whatever. Boom, out the door. First thing we do is what? Look for a phone.
Yeah.
So, cool. To the landline, 911. What's your emergency? Okay, this is what
No,
happened.
hold on. There's a wait time for it.
Well, don't, we're not going to get into that.
Let's
We're
just,
not
let's
gonna
just, let's
get
just
into
pretend
those.
we're calling an agency that actually picks up their 911 calls.
So we call you call 911 from landline. It's going to go to the nearest station to this location. So we're gonna get the PD, and they're gonna say, "What's your emergency?" Well, we just got robbed at gunpoint. This is where we are. This is the address. Okay, what the suspects look like? They're gonna get all this information now. What they're gonna do is they're gonna start typing this information into their system. And, hey, we got this. Well, I can tell you how our agency goes, and you have call takers, and then you have an actual dispatcher. So the dispatcher is the one that sends the call out. So they'll put in basic information to all cars, and then they'll voice it over the radio. Once that voice goes out over the radio and the call goes out to the computers, now all the cars know, and now they're responding from wherever they're responding from. But the time that it takes for them to input that call and send that call to a car, let's just say it takes them a minute and a half. So that minute and a half is already a delay from the how long it took us to get robbed and make it to a phone, right? So let's just call that 3 minutes. So now we're already 3 minutes from the time that we got robbed. So we're looking at 3 minutes, and then we're looking at anywhere from a 3 to 4 minute response time from law enforcement. So now add that 3 minutes to the next 3 or 4 minutes, we're looking at 7 minutes before the first officer gets here. Now the call's 10 minutes old. How far can someone who just robbed us here get in 10 minutes in a car, and they're very motivated to get away?
Even on foot.
Yeah.
They're in
gone.
Burbank.
Yeah, they're in Burbank.
More.
Right.
They're at Six Flags. We're having a good time.
They're gone. I mean, at this time of day, we're talking LA traffic.
Well, if we're talking
so
Mike, they get in their helicopter and they're out,
we're talking LA traffic, so they're stuck a little bit, but the freeway is not far from here, so it's not going to take them too
Yeah.
long to get very far.
And that's granted, they're not on another call already.
So that's what we contend with in law enforcement in responding to these type of calls, which, hey, you know what? Sometimes it's just the luck of the draw, and I just happen to be on the corner when that call goes out, right? But then there's the other thing. There's lookout cars, there's layoff cars, there's more than one person that's involved in that. There's more than 2 or 3 that's usually involved in that. So when they're going to conduct a caper like this, then yeah, of course they're like, okay, they got somebody down the street. They're waiting to see law enforcement. They're on the phone. They got a cell phone in their pocket where they're on speaker, and they're like, "Hey, cops coming! Get out of there!"
Well, actually, I've been told, and that they're using scanners too. They can actually
listen to the
They
scanner,
can
so they
listen
know.
to the response time, the TAs, and all of that, and they're pretty prepared. I can tell that. I seen videos of businesses getting robbed and all of that. They're working pretty organized. They know what they're doing.
They are. I mean, and the cell phone is a great piece of technology, but it's counterproductive in a lot of ways, especially as it relates to something like this, because again, you have all kinds of apps that you can pull up scanner, and you can put in a law enforcement agency, and you can put in a certain channel for that city, and you can hear everything that they're kind of talking about, or especially at least when the calls go out. They can hear that, and they can hear the response times. So now they know, they have a good idea as to how long it's going to take us to get to them. So, they kind of work around that. But usually they're like, if they go in, smash and grab and get out.
Look, in my opinion, if these people are not inside your house more than 30 minutes, and they don't hold you hostage and all of that, law enforcement is not going to be there on time.
There's a very good chance of it.
Yeah.
There's a high probability that unless someone's hurt they're still in your house or they have someone hostage, yeah, we're still gonna respond with high importance. But like Tori said, I mean, it's 10 minutes old unless he just happens to be down the street because, he decided to take a right turn instead of a left turn. It's literally the luck of the draw. The call goes out. I'm like, oh man, I'm 2 streets over, you know.
Well, also there is this thing of, is there anybody in your house? Let's say you see on the camera somebody breaks into your house, right? You call 911. Is there anybody in the house? No. Okay, it's not an emergency. How about that? What do you guys think about that? I mean, I understand maybe there is other emergencies, but I had a I had a situation. Client called. I had to go to their home. The dog was actually hidden in training. Their home got robbed, and we got there. The police officer showed up 4 hours after. This is not an emergency call. Uh, and I tell people now, I understand, there's nobody in the house, but if you had your dog there, nobody will go in first.
Right.
But also, what if your wife comes home? What if your, babysitter comes home at that moment? You
So
know what I mean?
I'll tell you, wanting to take up for the profession, I can understand the frustration from a citizen's perspective or their point of view when one of the worst things that can happen to them just happened to them. Somebody violated their personal space, right? And they're like, I want you here now, right? From a law enforcement perspective, there's a pecking order, if you will, right? If something dangerous is happening now, you're gonna get every cop that's working, right? That's just the way it is. You're gonna get every cop that's working. We'll be in the middle of taking a report for someone and be like, "Sorry, sir, I'll be right back. I gotta go do this real quick," right? Because we wanna stop it. If it's happening now, we want to stop it. We want to catch them. We want to put them away. That's just how we're built. That's just the way it is. Every cop's coming. If it's something that happened and the suspects are gone, then there's a next level, call, still a priority. You have a certain amount of time that you need to respond to that call, and it's usually within 15 minutes because of the nature of the call. Now, if it's just like, oh, my house was burglarized, I just got home from work, the windows busted, and, no one's in the house, I've already checked, but stuff scattered everywhere. Depending on what's happening in whatever respective city that day, it may be one of those days where the city is just getting hammered with crime and cops are all over the place doing all kinds of stuff, right? That's not a high importance type of call because no one's in danger, no one's injured, no one's in your house. You already checked and told us no one's in your house. So if some emergency happens or officer gets involved in a fight or a shooting or something like that, that's all hands on deck.
Yeah.
Right? Burglary call at this point, that's just a report call. And not saying that it's not important, because it is. And we understand that that's way more important to you because, again, you feel violated and your space has been violated and your safety is questionable at this point. But from we can't please everyone all the time perspective, right? We have to prioritize and execute. And that's typically how that goes. We prioritize the calls based on the level of danger, based on the type of call that it is. And then we execute based on that. And sometimes we just get so busy and so inundated with emergency calls that those report calls just get pushed to the back, pushed to the back, pushed to the back, pushed to the back, pushed to the back. And I can tell you from personal experience, I've gotten a report call at the beginning of shift, first thing, as soon as I log on, and not getting to that call till an hour towards the end of my shift, an hour from the end of my shift. And that's just simply because of the level of work.
Are we also short on law enforcement?
That's what I was going to get at right now. Unfortunately, without diving too deep into the political side of this,
absolutely,
we are so short on personnel. No one wants to be a police officer anymore, and the ones that get through are far and in between, to the point where some agencies are lowering their standards. And I'm sorry, but if you're lowering standards to do the job that we do, the liability increases, the potential of danger and injury increases, or death amongst ourselves, or the community. It's just, you're not getting the quality that should be there. We train for however many weeks. Certain people's academies, 23 weeks, 24 weeks, whatever it may be. And Tori was a drill instructor at one point. He probably remembers, and I remember when we went through the academy and how tough it was, and beyond that, the people before us. But you go now, and so many things have changed, and the laws and how we perceive them, and opinions of others matter over experience. It's convoluted. It's convoluted to the point where we can't make decisions, and we can't get to the center that we want to get right now. And again, that goes back to our point here: why we train our clients, why you train your clients, why we're taking a bigger step to educate those that don't have the ability, or have unfortunately lost faith in law enforcement, because not because they're bad people, but because they're just not going to show up because they're too busy. And I think that's the crazy thing about all this.
I have a question about people that come to you guys for trainings. Do you generally ask them to understand the level of their knowledge, how to use a gun, in their properties, to obtain what they have first? And what's the medium average opinion? People know how to use guns at home?
I think from the conversations that we've collectively sat and talked to our clients, my biggest thing first and foremost is, what is your experience with handling a firearm? Or and you'll get everything from, well, I used to shoot with my dad when I was a kid growing up in the Midwest or in Texas or wherever. We used to go hunt, so what kind of gun were you using? Or we were using a rifle, or we were using a shotgun. When was the last time you shot a gun? I was 12. And you're how old now? I'm 40. Excellent. You never shot a gun before.
You never shot a gun.
Yeah.
Right? So
It's good memories.
So that's my level of I immediately have to put them at that level, because as we were discussing earlier, perishable skills, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. So for that amount of time, we talk 28 years of not ever having handled a firearm, and then say, I want to use a firearm in protecting my life if somebody breaks in my house. No, you're not going to be able to do that, right?
Most
So
of the time you will face,
you'll get a lot of that, right? So then now I know the level that I need to start at 0, right? And you work them up from there, okay? So there's that. But then I also say, well, what's your ultimate goal, in coming to training and coming to classes? What is it that you're trying to gain from this? And I want to be able to respond if that happens and be effective. Home defense and things like that. Perfect. So that gives me an idea as to how to create a curriculum specifically for that family, or specifically for that person, that is going to get them from 0. And I'm not going to say to 100, because I'll never get them to 100. You never know it's at 100 unless they actually have to use it.
Yeah.
Right? But at least to a point of comfortability where they're confident and they're comfortable being able to utilize it in the way that we want to see them utilize it, minus stress, right? And then we put them in stressful situations in the shoot house, and and you see how they respond in the shoot house with non-lethal rounds, and it helps them make more of an assessment of themselves and what they're capable of, or what they may or may not be able to do. Because then we tell them, okay, now you have these less than lethal rounds coming at you, and you know that they hurt, they sting. I mean, it's just what it is. Now you see how you responded in that situation, how scared you were to get hit by something that you know won't kill you. What are you going to do when something's coming at you that will? And it makes them do self-assessment, right? And that's what we want. We want them to self-assess. I can assess someone all day long and be like, yeah, you're not worthy. Yeah, you're a little crazy, but, we want them to self-assess, because we want them to see themselves from start to finish. and kind of see themselves progress and watch how they do that and understand how they get to that point. And it's constant action, constant training.
I'm assuming this is not only has to be the physical gun training. Now, okay, you know how to shoot and all of this is great.
Right.
But what about the rules, laws, and situations, when, how you use it, what you do after, what you do before? A lot of people get into trouble because of lack of knowledge, how they use their gun and what they need to do next, or
Right.
the
So
laws or regulations. We've seen some of this recently on news that some people got into trouble because of
yeah.
using CCW weapon.
So when it comes to like the laws and things like that, especially California law, and we as cops, we have this saying, it's a thing that we say to people on traffic stops, ped stops, bike stops, whatever. Ignorance of the law is no excuse for breaking it, right? It's just not. Just because you didn't know that that was a law, that's your fault, right? As a legal adult, walking around in society and doing things and being able to do things, you need to be aware of what the laws are that you can and can't do. So especially if you're going to go out and buy a gun, you need to study and learn, what the laws are that are related to that. Number one being, safe handling, safe storage, and the use of it, being able to use deadly force, what constitutes deadly force, what the definitions of those things are, and, what you have to go through in order to be able to do so legally. So we do talk about all of that in our courses so that they understand, okay, if you shoot someone, even if you shoot them in self-defense, that is still a homicide. You need to understand that is still a homicide. It will still be investigated as a homicide. You will still be arrested. Your weapon will still be taken, a bunch of evidence and all these things, and a statement will be made. Now, we're not attorneys. We don't claim to be attorneys. We never have. While we are members of law enforcement, we're not giving you legal advice. We always tell our clients, talk to an attorney.
Yeah.
And, don't be scared to, cooperate with law enforcement. By no means cooperate, because that's what we want. That's what's going to make your life easier. Cooperate. Tell them exactly what you thought. Tell them exactly what you felt. Tell them exactly what happened so that everything can be laid out. But do so at the advice of an attorney.
And we think we do that. I mean, we say that for an obvious reason. To add to that, everything we do has a reason behind it. So our clients, for example, right, we talked about, the questions that they have and how we assess them. When we get a client in, we do our homework. Social media is a great tool. We look them up, we see who they are they really who they're saying they are? And we're just using basic public knowledge stuff here that we do our due diligence to make sure, hey, we're not, God forbid, training the next mass murder, right? We want to make sure that that's not the case. But we want to know who our clients are, where they're coming from, what they've done, if we can find out who their family members are. I mean, and we use this later on. Hey, well, how did you find out all this? Well, your social media is wide open. You post everything you do on a daily basis on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Oh, you guys find all that? Well, yeah, that's our job. You asked us to protect you by teaching you and giving you the skill set to be one step ahead of the criminal. Sometimes you're giving them everything they need to know.
Much information.
And most 9 times out of 10, the person that's going to come after and steal from you is someone that you've met or known, or have someone that knows of you, and then they're going to relay that information. Especially, teenagers that have parties. I hope that doesn't happen to you, but they'll have parties and you have random people show up. Oh, this is a nice house. We should check it out. I mean, it's just so easy nowadays. Like Tori said earlier, your phone could be the greatest asset and your biggest enemy too, for the victims and for the criminals. So you take all this and you couple it together, and we really try to give a foundation, a basis to our clients, just like you do, to really let them know, hey, we're taking a invested time with what we're going to give you, and we're investing time in who you are and what you're about. We do that so that we can get that good foundation, and we'll ask you the questions that we need, and then that's where Tori really gets deep into it on how, okay, we're going to structure this client's family to this learning path, and we're going to give them that roadmap to where they want to go. And I've heard you talk about that all the time. What's our roadmap? How do we get them there? How do we do that with 2 roadmaps so it becomes one, and we build on those different steps on how to get them to a level of competency so that when the time does come, God forbid, they are at that 100, if not further, to where they're confident whatever decision they're going to make, whether they're going to send a dog or they're going to use force or deadly force. So it's very, very
Yeah,
important.
I mean, in any situations, we all prefer, clients be knowledgeable enough to prevent the happening, or just the warning. You get away with the warning, like I do with the dog, or hey, I have a gun. Don't come. Whatever it is to prevent escalation of the situations. But if it's not happening, then you gotta do what you gotta do. But it's better if you trained properly how to do it at least.
Right.
I mean,
And those
honestly,
two are gonna
here's the
matter.
thing, right? We all our lives we go to school, we create businesses, we work somewhere, all our life, have kids now. We assume, okay, now the life is great, we have kids, we have family, we have work, and one day, one person decides to destroy
Take it
all
all.
that,
Yep.
and they take it all. Now you never know how wrong that's gonna go, what's gonna happen, and that's how you're gonna live with that.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, can you afford it? I don't think anybody can afford that in this situation that is happening in our lives.
Well,
I think
you hit the
everybody
nail on the
should be
head
ready.
earlier when you talked about that happening and how someone mentally just can no longer function in that environment, right? So if you take away the financial side of it, right? You may have a Rolex and a nice computer, nice TV, whatever, right? They steal your computer that has all your passwords and your bank accounts and insurance and all of that information that's stored in your computer because you didn't write it down somewhere and put it in a safe, and now they have it, and now they have access to your entire life, right? So put the financial side of put that aside. Well, you talked about, I can't come in this house anymore. I don't feel safe in this house anymore, knowing that someone came in here and violated us in that manner. And then now you're talking about the mental health portion of it, which is another part of our training. Is you go through the legal part of it, right? Well, first of all, you go through the stress of actually having to deal with the incident, right? And that stress level is just beyond what anybody expects. Then you have to go through the legal side of it. And now the legal side of it is stressing you out even more because that's a whole nother animal to deal with, especially where we live, right? It's a whole nother animal to deal with. Put that aside, now you have the third prong, and now you have the mental health portion of it, right? How do I deal with that emotionally? How do I deal with that spiritually? The PTSD that follows that, right? Like you said, now they're in the house and every bump or knock. I mean, today's a windy day, right? And you got chairs falling over in the backyard and, pillows being blown into the pool and this and that and all this other stuff happening. You're living in fear, you're living scared, and that's a mental health issue that needs to be addressed, right?
Exactly.
So, people being able to deal with stress is it's been a long lifetime of people dealing with stress or not knowing how to deal with stress or understanding how to deal with stress. So, we try to provide people with sources that they can reach out to and talk to in those times, right? Having that shoulder to lean on, that shoulder to cry on, that someone to talk to that can help them cope, right? Minus the medication, because I don't think that's always necessary, but help them cope and deal with those type of things and understand what happened. And we want to give them those resources and things like that. And there's tons of numbers and tons of doctors and things that people can talk to. And sometimes it might just be them venting. Hey, I'll be your shoulder. I'll be your ear. Tell me, let's talk about it. And if it's not something that's within my realm or within my capability to help them, then cool, let's guide you in another direction to kind of deal with that, because that's a very real thing, especially when you start talking. I mean, you have cops that get involved in incidents and they never come back to work. You have cops that get involved in shootings or major fights or something like that, and they never come back to work because that PTSD just stays with them.
Yeah,
and
you
that
can't fight
fear-
back that. Yeah.
That fear, it never goes away. And we see it in our military.
Well,
know.
also you're talking about mature people right now, trained people, cops, military, and all of that. You imagine now, this is civilians, this is houses, there's
They've
kids.
never dealt with anything
There is
like
kids,
that.
you
Yeah.
know. If these kids are this age, they're like, they're scared to help.
Yeah.
How you fix that? How you fix that? How you can
Absolutely.
deal with that?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, if you, for a second, if anybody just pictures it, right, like in their head, how this is gonna turn, how I can afford not to be ready for this, it's just you can't.
Yeah.
You can't put your child under risk, hoping some magic will happen, nobody will come to your door. Generally, in our mindset, home, we're safe at home. This is our home, right?
Mhm.
That's when you relax. That's when you put your
You put
guards
your guards
down.
down,
Hey, I'm
yeah.
relaxed. I'm home. But guess what? You're not.
Yeah.
You're not. I mean,
that's-
if you're sleeping with the gun, if you're sleeping,
Don't sleep with
yeah, you're not sleeping.
Don't do that. I don't want to hear any stories of guns magically
it's-
going
it's-
off while somebody's asleep. That's terrible.
But also there is another thing. People will buy a gun. They have two-story house. The gun is in the safe
Upstairs,
or
in the
upstairs.
closet.
It's too far from them, under 3 different locks. And they're like, I have a gun. If anything happens, I know what to do. I'm like, yeah, sure.
That's enough. Well, you're touching on a whole lot of points
Oh,
that,
I know.
that
Yeah.
we talk to our clients about throughout training. That's very real situations, and that's one of them. I have a 2-story house. My room is on the other side of the house, but it's upstairs. It's in the closet. It's on the shelf. It's under some clothes.
But I have a gun.
and
But
it's,
I have a
and
gun.
it's
I have a
under a
gun.
safe. But then, somebody told me that I should store my gun in my safe, unload it with the magazine, out of the gun. So now you got to try. Can you put in that code that
Yeah.
you did 4 months ago,
Twice.
and you've not opened it since? Can you remember that code first of all? Right, that's one thing. And
Under
then when
that
you do remember
stress.
the code under stress, when you do remember the code finally, can you get that gun out, get it loaded, and then get into the fight? Well, probably not, because by that time
It's a
they're
lot of
already on
moving
you.
parts.
There's no way that that's happening. So again, there's a whole lot of
It's a lot.
aspects of what do you do in that situation? Do I keep guns in other rooms? Do I have safes here and there?
Well, the
it's up to
thing,
you.
my point is just going to the store, buying a gun. That doesn't mean you're safe.
No,
No.
not at all.
People need to understand that. I mean, we even train
I
at
have a
least
pair of
once or
clippers.
two.
It doesn't
yeah.
make me a barber.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So they're like, I have a gun. I'm like, listen. Simple question. You're in Vegas. Your wife calls you and says, somebody's breaking in. What are you gonna do? You're gonna tell your wife to get your gun and shoot this person without having any experience or knowledge and all of that, or can she do it at the end of the day? You gotta be really preparing her
Well,
Right.
not only that, what if
mentally
what
to
if,
understand
what if he
why
tells
I'm
her
doing
to
it.
shoot whoever's in the house, and she gets the gun and shoots them? Did she shoot them because she felt threatened, or did she shoot them because he
Because
told
of
her
the
to?
Louis Vuitton bar, Louis
Now we're
Vuitton
looking
bag.
at 25 to life for
Right.
murder, right?
Did,
Yeah.
It's like,
and that's a legitimate question right there, right? Did she shoot him because there was a threat to her life, or did she shoot him because her
Exactly.
husband told her to?
Exactly.
right.
See, there
Right.
is a lot of questions like that. People say, "Oh, if you shoot somebody behind their back, you're in trouble." Well, not really. If you know,
Well,
it based on a
yes and no.
situation, right?
It's all
If this person
situational.
is running to your child's room, I don't care. He's facing me or
Carte
he's
blanche.
yeah, I
Yep,
don't
my
care.
book,
I'm
carte
going for it.
blanche.
There is a lot of questions that you need to know the answers.
Mhm.
You need to be trained for it. Also, you need to make that call at that second because it's happening right now. Can I do it or not?
Yeah.
Is it justified to do it or not? We're having party. I drank a one or two. Somebody breaked in with guns. Well, I used my gun. I was drunk. Is that okay or not? There's a lot of things, right? A lot of
There's
questions.
A lot of variables.
Yeah. Then end of the day, I will always just say, hey, it's up to you now. Are you ready for it or not? Do you want to train or not? Because uh, it's not just a decision of, oh, we're going to this vacation or not. This is something you're facing today. Are you willing to prepare yourself for it, or you're just gonna wait for a good luck to not come to your door?
Well, here's a good situational judgment, or situational awareness, situational judgment. Kind of the same thing, right? For families out there, right? If you're talking a family that lives in a gated community, the chances are they probably don't have this. But if you're just talking just your average, everyday, middle class family, right? How many times have you pulled up to a stoplight behind a minivan and you see Big Mickey, John, Little Minnie or Big Minnie, Stephanie, Little Minnie, Tina, Little Minnie, Michelle, Little Mickey, John Jr.,
Yeah.
right?
How many members we have in the house?
What did I learn about that family? That there's 5 members. They love Disneyland, right? Because otherwise they wouldn't have Mickey and Minnie.
Mm-hmm.
They have 3 kids that are younger, right? And you got John, Stephanie, Michelle, Tina, and John Jr. And then you got the soccer ball over here. And then you got, my kid is an honor student at Lincoln Elementary. And cool. So now I know one of these kids go to Lincoln Elementary. So if I wanted to kidnap a kid and it just happens to be little John Jr., cool, right? Well, hey, little Johnny, come here. So your dad, John, I'm a friend of your dad's, right? I know your mom, Stephanie, and your sister, Tina, and your sister, Michelle. And he sent me over here because Tina's over at soccer practice and this, that, and the other thing. He said, come with me.
That's it.
Kid's gone.
Yeah, just giving too much
Right.
information.
That's
right?
one.
Yes, that's big.
The other thing is, what else am I telling them? That I got kids that go to soccer practice, which soccer practice is typically on the weekends, right? Maybe after school, a couple days a week. Now I got an empty house, or at least I'm supposed to have an empty house, because typically you're gonna have mom either taking the kids, dad's usually at work, and this, that, or the other. You're giving them all of this information. You know, this is like Facebook, right?
My favorite is when they geotag their location and it's posted 5 minutes ago. Well, you just said you were at the park. Your whole family's at the park, so that means your house is empty.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, don't do that. You could post pictures, post it the day after. Like a lot of my friends, I tell them, a lot of high-profile friends that are actors or singers, and I'm like, hey, they all know already, and they ask me all the time, should I post this? I'm like, I wouldn't. I'd wait 2 days later.
Next day,
Wait
yeah,
till you're
whatever,
gone or mix
yeah.
it up. No one really cares. I mean, for all they know, oh, you just went. I just keep them guessing, keep them thinking.
We come to that again. Before everything happens, you not be a target because of the information you give out,
Yeah,
or
don't make yourself a
or,
victim.
or
Yeah.
you're just like talking too much. But if you became one, at least be ready for it.
And that's all we can do, right? If you want peace, prepare for war.
So I got a question. Do you have a predictive forecast on crime? Like, what can we expect in a changing world as technology changes? Do you see any trends? Have we seen any trends in the past?
I think a lot of people aren't cognizant of updates on their phones. Just recently, Apple last month did an update on their phone, which not only displays your location, tells the apps that are social platforms to also display your location, but also the Tap app, which is probably the most important update on that phone. If you updated your phone, for example, and you're in the public place and you walk up next to someone, you could literally get within a few inches, if not a foot, I think. Well, a little bit less than a foot. Get a couple inches close to that person with a phone, and you could grab all their information. Their first name, last name, phone number. If they have their address on their Apple iCloud. If they have their email address. If they have all their social platforms, by just tapping your phone. So the up-and-coming crime is a lot of these guys are not only grabbing that information, they no longer need the tools that they were buying off of Amazon. They were buying these tools off of Amazon to do phishing and grabbing data off your phone from a couple yards away with another antenna and a little bit more complex. Now that they've made this extremely easy. It's so easy to grab all this data, and it just helps these criminals that are becoming much more organized to say, okay, we're gonna go after Tina or Sarah or Michelle or John or Mike. We're going to go after them. Yeah, we have their addresses. We'll go in order. Shoot, we'll take it a step further. Hey, if we take the 60 and we get off on the 710, we could do a full circle and hit all the addresses that we have here. I mean, how hard is that? And to Tori's point, if they hit that house and they're in and out in 10 minutes, they're on to the next house in another city in their little circle that they're planning, and so on and so forth. So now you've made an unorganized criminal an organized criminal.
Yeah.
And those are the trends that we're seeing right now. Those are the things that, a lot of people aren't aware of. Oh, that can't happen to me. Yeah, it can. You got to be kidding me if you're thinking that way. Like, that's not the way to think. So that's the biggest thing that we're seeing right now in trends of crime is technology and information being just given.
Are there any common attributes that targets share? And a common denominator, any common denominator?
Sometimes, yeah. I think back to maybe a couple years ago where you had that crew that was stealing watches, right, in Beverly Hills.
Yeah.
Right? They would
from
just,
restaurants.
They would just
Yeah.
go to different restaurants and they would, okay, that guy's got a nice watch, let's rob him. Or this guy's got a nice watch, let's rob him. And they were, you see a Rolex, you see a Panerai, you see a Breitling, okay, that guy, right? And those were the people that they were targeting. They even go as far as looking at what kind of car you drive, right? This guy drives a nice Mercedes AMG 63, or this guy drives a Bentley, or this guy's got a G-Wagon, or whatever the case may be. Let's go get that guy, because the chances are they're going to catch him off guard. And when they catch him off guard, it startles most people and they freeze, right? That's one. The other thing is, like you mentioned earlier, following them home from a location.
That's a big one right now.
So we had that happened a few months ago, not far from our location, where a family for Christmas, well, actually it was around Christmas time, went to a jewelry store in Cerritos and was followed home and robbed in front of their house, right in the driveway.
Yeah, actually, that one was, to be very specific, again, they're doctors, and their home was in Fullerton. They were followed from Cerritos all the way to Fullerton, and everything was stolen from them. I had a couple cases in November, December, at the bank, not paying attention to the surroundings, and that's what they look for. Who has their AirPods on? Who's distracted? Who's on the phone counting their money, not paying attention? They're looking for, well, we talked about this, and I know we mentioned it, that soft target. Who is the easiest, quickest target that I could go after so I can move on to the next? And that's the trend. They're just looking for that easy, I got them.
And typically it's going to be, and I hate to see it, and I'm not trying to be a sexist or anything like that, but they'll typically target women.
Yeah.
They'll typically target females. They'll target older couples.
Correct.
Or older men, because they feel like, older men are not going to be as spry as we all once were. We're not spring chickens anymore, so
Right.
they're not going to be as spry.
Well,
Although
also
I know
they're
some
changing
I know
their-
some old dudes that'll fight them.
They're actually changing. They're smart too. They're changing their ways of doing things. I seen they're setting up accidents, blocking you supposedly. Oh, you got into accident.
That's old.
And
They've
then-
been doing that for years.
Well, right? Yeah. So they always
Yeah.
change ways of. So pretty much today, nowhere is gas station, it's store, it's
Yeah,
a
run up to you in
restaurant.
gas station.
Nowhere is safe. So pretty much that's why people are keep applying for the CCWs,
Yeah.
getting guns. But now, how you use that gun is very important.
And
What
then-
bullets you use.
And the thing
It's a
is,
big one, right?
People
Bullets.
think that just because I live in a certain neighborhood that I'm exempt from this
Not
happening
anymore.
here, because we don't have
Not
this
anymore.
type of crime here. And no, you got guys that, a buddy of mine worked for Beverly Hills PD, was a detective there, worked on that case, that major crimes case, where those guys were running around stealing all the watches from the restaurants. That crew was from Riverside. They lived Riverside, Moreno Valley. They weren't even in LA, but they were like, hey, we're here. We don't have this here. Let's go over there where it is, and we can go get that stuff.
Well,
it's
we've
crazy.
seen that there were tourists too coming to the United States for just specifically robbing people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's wild.
So, these days, it's hard to pinpoint, who's doing what or why they're doing what. We just know that it's happening.
It's happening.
And we have to stay vigilant as, not only law enforcement with us, but just as citizens, period, just to be aware of your surroundings and understand that guy looks like he's out of place and what's going on with him. Maybe I should watch him for a little while before I do something. But people, again, get so caught up in their phones,
Especially in LA County, man.
Walking down the street on their phones, texting, not really paying attention. You almost hit them with your car. You're like, what are you doing? Get off your phone. Get out of the road.
And then with laws being so lenient in LA County, I mean, it's just, the criminal knows, I'm not even going to go to jail. And if I do go to jail, I'll be out in 2-3 hours. And that's legitimate. It's just paperwork filing, and then they're out. Or they're going to get a ticket on the spot, especially in LA County with said DA. I mean, I'll leave it at that.
You know what they do? First thing they come out, they're like, shit, I'm going to have to spend like 10,000-15,000 on an attorney. We need to go to, get something. Let's get the money.
I'm gonna go get some money.
Activates them to do the crime.
I'm already out. I just robbed someone about 5 hours ago. I'm going to need 10,000-15,000 for this. I'm going to go rob someone else.
Yeah.
That's just the circle.
I got one last question. Just for everyone who is curious, hopefully you never have to be in a situation where you need to deploy a firearm, but I'm just really curious, what is the procedure like when you report to a home where there has been a break-in and gunshots have rung out? What are the procedures that happen from that point forward?
That's a loaded question.
Oh, man.
That is a loaded question.
That's a long question. But in what sense? Meaning, what they do first, or what's the
like? What can the homeowner expect legally, or
after
if
the aftermath?
if they shoot someone in their house,
like if I shoot somebody in my house, let's say the person doesn't die, what can I, the homeowner, expect from a legal standpoint to happen from that point forward?
Okay, with law enforcement.
With law enforcement,
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's okay. We can narrow that one down a little bit.
Narrow that down. They will be proned out. Definitely don't have a gun on them when the cops get there. I would say this. This is, we've had these situations happen with former law enforcement officers. We've had this situation happen with active law enforcement officers. And come into a situation as a law enforcement officer on duty, your adrenaline's up there, right? Like, oh man, is this going to go sideways or is this going to go peacefully? We hope it goes peacefully because obviously, preservation of life is paramount. As a citizen in your home, I would say, one, if that person is down and, they're no longer in the land of the living, then, put your gun aside, make sure you don't have your gun on you, step outside the house and wait for law enforcement to get there so that you can guide them. You don't disturb the crime scene any more than it needs to be because technically it is still a crime. They will be taken into custody briefly, at the very least.
We'll probably take it to the station.
And detained, given the opportunity to call an attorney and say their piece and do what they need to do. The house will be cleared and taped up and the whole nine. All of that stuff will be done. Possibly booked on the spot. Again, depending on the situation. Possibly booked on the spot. And statements need to be made at some point. And again, do that under the advice of an attorney, right?
Yes, have an attorney there.
We have
Don't
them
speak.
do that under advice of an attorney. Not telling them not to cooperate, not telling them to be jerks or anything like that. Just take the advice of an attorney because we don't want them to get into a situation where they say something that may be damaging. And
there's nothing wrong with saying, look, sir, ma'am, I'm totally here to cooperate with you, but before I make any statements, I definitely am going to contact my legal counsel, period. And that's not being disrespectful. We understand.
It's not. And the level of expertise that you're going to get from homicide detectives, they're going to say, okay, no problem. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Let us know when your attorney gets here. Let us know when your attorney's ready for you to talk, and we'll go from there. They're not going to hound them or pressure them or anything like that. But then you also know that, this is Los Angeles and everybody's got something to say. So now little Johnny's family is going to come out of the woodworks and be like, I want to sue them because they killed him and he just graduated college or trade school or whatever it was he was doing. He was trying to better his life. Well, why was he in my house with a gun? He's trying to better his life, right? So
He was trying to better his life.
Yeah.
there's, there's the civil side that comes behind that, which can always be mitigated. You have the legal side because again, it was a homicide, and then the civil side from the family, which may or may not come out of the woodworks, but just be prepared for it is what we would tell our clients, is just be prepared for it because you never know. And then there's the mental health side of it, right? So again, to Mike's point, do I still want to live in this house anymore, knowing that I just had to defend myself and send somebody to the other side, right? Can I sit here and stare at that spot anymore without seeing that body there? Can I sit here and stare at that spot without seeing the amount of blood that was there? Can I sit here and have my kids walk around this house and know what happened? Do I, and some people are very spiritual and they might feel like that spirit is still there in their house and they don't want any part of that. And I gotta go, right? So house goes on the market immediately, and now you have to deal with uprooting your family, and now you have to deal with, realtors and moving and construction or whatever, right? There's all of those things that go with that.
Your life changes.
Yeah, everything changes.
I mean, you got to look at the social aspect too, right? I know I keep talking about technology, but it's a real thing. Channel 7, 5, 11, 13 will all be there. Hey, however they spin it, because I don't even know what they would say, right? LA County resident shoots and kills little Johnny who just graduated, whatever.
Trade tech.
That mental aspect of everywhere you go now, people are going to start recognizing, hey, you're that guy that killed so-and-so. Well, no, I didn't kill him. He broke into my house. Nah, it doesn't matter. Again, back to Tori's point is, can you handle that mental
Well, I
anguish,
have a point over there, right? Now, the person really broke into your house. He had a gun. He had all of this. You had all of the right to do what you had to do, but you did it wrong because you didn't have the knowledge or training. Now you're going to face charges, and you're going to be that killer who killed that guy, but you had the right. You just did it wrong. That's another point I wanna put up there because let's say he was, he did something.
Well, I know exactly.
You know what
you're
I'm saying?
So say he broke into the house, right? You go in, you grab your firearm, and you're like, "Hey, get out of my house! I got a gun." But you see he has a gun in his hand, and as he's turns and he's running back towards the front door to exit the house, they shoot him. Yeah, now they're culpable, right? Because what was the threat at that point? Yeah, he had a gun. I get that. But what was the threat to you if he's leaving the location and you shoot him in the back? So there's actually a movie out that happened like that some years ago. Very well known actor that was in Blade. Really good movie actually, but it was with a baseball bat as opposed to a firearm, and it was in the front lawn as opposed to inside the house. Well, yeah, he actually ended up going to prison, but that is a thing because if he's not a threat, why are you aggressing?
My point is just okay. You have the fact that person is in your house, he has a gun and all of that, but just because you're not trained and you don't know how to.
That fact alone is not enough.
Yeah. I mean, look at Alec Baldwin. Oh, I didn't understand. They checked it. You
still
talk.
have a responsibility.
You still have a responsibility to make sure if you're operating a weapon that it's operating properly and that you know how to operate it. Whether you're in a movie or in this scenario, you're in a home, you need to understand the law. You need to understand the principles behind it. And it goes back to full circle what we've been talking about this whole time is what's your level of expertise? What's your skill set? You're buying a weapon that can take someone's life. Even a dog too. Are you going to just send a dog just because? No, you have to understand the discipline and be mature enough to say, hey, I could have these tools as a civilian. Let me empower myself and others to learn the right way to use these things. So the repercussions are a repercussion of what I've already set forth. In other words, I understand and I am comfortable with my decisions versus your scenario of, I have a gun, I shot him. Well,
that's not good enough.
That's not good enough.
That's not good enough.
Yeah, you gotta live with that.
And that's the beauty of like the two companies merging, right? So say you have that situation where someone on the street or coming out of a store or a mall or something, and they have their dog with them, but they have a CCW, and they're armed, and someone comes up to rob them at gunpoint. Cool. That's not cool. However, this is where you want to go.
What-
Cool. I have a couple things that can
Yeah.
that can mitigate this robbery right now.
Real quick.
And you give the dog, commands to bark. That's either gonna scare them off, or he's going to try to
Go on a dog, yeah.
aggress the dog.
Mike,
At which point, the dog can do what the dog is trained to do, right? Or the owner can do what we train the
Which
owner
is-
to do,
Yes, exactly.
and separate from the dog. Force multiplier, right? You don't necessarily have a duty to retreat when it comes to self-defense in the state of California. There's no duty to retreat. I don't have to retreat. I can defend myself at the same level that you're aggressing me, right? And that's a California law. Perfect. Understanding that law and knowing the ins and outs of that law is what makes it good for our clients to have both of those things available to them, right?
I gotta ask this, Mike, and I think people are gonna want to know this. God forbid the dog does what it does and it loses its life. What do you do for your client then? Is it, do you
If the dog loses their life,
like doing exactly what you
well,
train them
well,
to do?
here's the thing, right? I never had a situation. I never did.
We hope it
but
doesn't.
At least, I hope never does it. But at least what I'll do for that family, I will at least give them another puppy from me as a gift. But I will, we have people or soldiers or officers dying on a duty, right? I will honor that dog that he saved his family and he died for it. He will be honored on my wall here, but from me, I will do a puppy to a family as a.
I know it's a touchy subject. I
Yeah,
just,
it
the
is.
dog.
No, I mean
it's
that's
a
awesome.
good
It's a
concept
question.
because it's a good thing for Delta Canine to be able to do that, but it's also knowing that, I mean, you get attached to these dogs.
I do.
We all do.
Every
Yeah.
single dog, my dogs, you don't even imagine. I get attached to the families too. Every single family comes here to have kids. I'm Uncle Mike. Uncle Mike, Uncle Mike. They will come to their families and say, call Uncle Mike. I miss Uncle Mike. So I become part of their families.
Yeah.
And that same thing that happens to my dog or same thing that happens to my family. That's how I take it. And thanks God, nothing like that ever happened so far. Hope never happens. But in any situation, we will be with the family all the way.
No, yeah, that's
That's
pretty
why I
good.
like Mike and his business practice. It's not just about the money. It's
It's
about
not about money.
taking care of
Guys,
clients.
I don't know if this is a proper place to say. I don't know how much money I make. I don't know how much money I spend. I just love what I do.
And I think that's why we all get along. I really do.
My wife knows how much money I spend. What'd you buy now? Less than whatever she bought on Amazon.
For sure, right? Guys, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate your presence here. Hopefully, we can come up with something that, together with my experience, your experience, my knowledge, your knowledge, we can help our community, our families, to have that extra tools and knowledge and training to protect their kids, their families, whatever the case is. If we can change somebody's life in a positive way or prevent their life getting ruined, it will be my honor to do it. And I'm sure you guys have the same mentality. That's why we're sitting here today. Hopefully we can bring this to reality and make it happen.
No, of course. We appreciate you having us here and giving someone the education, puts the ball in their court, right? And that's all we can ever hope to do is give them enough education that they can make the right decisions and function and move forward in a safe manner throughout this life. And it's all we can ever hope for.
Yeah, Mike, we appreciate it. And I've known you for a while now, and I told Tori this. I don't think there's a better partnership out there because of the way we all think and what our mindset is, and that we truly care about the education that we're providing, the opportunity to get someone to think for themselves and give them the tools that they need to act accordingly and make that sound decision. So, I I mean, we're really appreciative, and we're super excited to do this. I think we're going to set the tone and change a lot of lives in a positive direction to give them that empowerment to do what they need to do if the time comes that they need to make a very crucial decision.
Thank you, guys. Let's do this.
Thanks,
All
brother.
right, thanks, Mike.